welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Jenny Mack. I'm a holistic nutritionist and lupus warrior, and I am excited to be here with you today. I guide lupus warriors on a transformative journey to reclaim vitality through whole food holistic healing. That's all we're going to talk about on this channel. How to empower yourself to heal, because it is possible, right? My theory is that if you heal the gut, heal your emotions, you can heal lupus. And today we have a very special yet simple recipe for you, for the gut, for the immune system. And it's sauerkraut. Yes, sauerkraut. You probably know it from putting it on sausages, but it has a greater use than that. It is a naturally fermented food, and it's rich in probiotics such as Lactobacillus acidophilus, right? And it's very easy to make. So we're going to do that today. Look at this beautiful purple cabbage. Well, I want to share with you my journey with sauerkraut. I've been consistently eating sauerkraut for about 6 months now, and I've seen a tremendous improvement in my overall gut health, okay? So if we rewind last year, I just suffered the worst lupus flare ever, right? I lost 45 pounds, which is 1/3 my body weight. I had so many issues from my head to my toes, including indigestion and gut issues. Frankly, I had a leaky gut, right? So I had heartburn, acid reflux, constipation, diarrhea, vomiting even, gas, nausea, bloating, and the list goes on. So simply put, I had a leaky gut and I wasn't able to digest food well and absorb nutrients, right? So that's when I went into my nutritionist toolbox and I said, how can I settle my gut inflammation, right? And that's really through eating fermented foods, prebiotic foods like whole foods packed with fiber, right? So eating naturally fermented foods can provide a good source of natural probiotics. And sauerkraut, this is one of those foods that I have to have, if not every single day, every other day. And it's really been a game changer in the health of my gut. It's really transformed the gut microbiome to diversify the good gut bacteria and fight off pathogens and toxins in my body, all with this just beautiful, humble cabbage. So I'm going to show you how to make this recipe. Actually, you get a little bonus. I'm going to show you how to make it 2 ways. The simple way, the traditional way, and the lupus warrior fight inflammation way. All right. So all you need are the cabbages, right? Your sea salt. Optionally, we have some fennel and some ginger. We have a scale so that we can weigh out the salt appropriately. We have a mason jar to store the cabbage and start the fermentation process. We have a pestle and mortar. All you need is this part so that you can mash the juices out of the cabbage, and just a few bowls for the ingredients. We also need a knife, and then we're going to get a fermentation lid for these jars, which I'll show you later. What we're going to do is gently slice the cabbage. Now, what I like to do is put the knife, press it against the cabbage to slice it very thinly, and just pull the blade down. You want it in very thin strips. Now, if you want to, you can also use a food processor to chop this. Optional. You can also use a mandolin. You have options, okay? Yes. I would say this is probably the most tedious part. There's one other part to it, but it's really about just finely chopping the cabbage, because when you take a mouthful of this probiotic-rich sauerkraut in your salad, on your sandwich, on its own, then you want a nice mouthful. You don't want too much in one bite, so that's why I like to chop it very thin. It also helps break down the walls of the cabbage better during the fermentation process. And in terms of size of cabbage, I like to go for in between a medium and a small cabbage, and this fits a 32-ounce jar. Now we're going to pack the jar. You want to really pack the cabbage so that there's no air, right? So that when that lactic acid starts to feed on the cabbage, it feeds on the cabbage, right? It's not feeding on air. So that's how the fermentation process works successfully when you pack the cabbage in the jar. I'm going to show you. All right, so now we thinly chopped our purple or red cabbage, and we're just going to sit it to the side in a bowl. Now we're going to thinly slice our ginger. I like to thinly slice it so that you don't get too much ginger in one bite, but you can certainly just use a knife and chop it up. I'm going to use this mandolin, but I'm going to be careful and put on this anti-cut glove because there have been too many times where I have cut myself. Okay, so we're going to be careful here. And I'm just going to thinly slice the ginger right into the bowl. Yep. And pay attention here as well. Okay. So when I get down to the last part here, I'm just going to slice that using a knife. Okay. So that much ginger, right? Little ginger goes a long way. And then we're just going to thinly chop the rest of this and place it right into the bowl. And the next ingredient we're going to use is fennel. We're going to use fennel seeds, which gives it a nice taste. Oh my gosh. And why I love the combination of these two ingredients, ginger is anti-inflammatory and it also helps soothe the stomach. It helps support a good digestive system. And fennel pretty much does the same thing. It's really soothing for the gut. So I like to use about a tablespoon of fennel seeds. And it's delicious when you ferment it with the salt. Just use a little bit more. There we go. All right, now I'm going to show you how much salt to place in the fermentation. Okay, how much salt do you need for fermentation? And the way that we're going to decide this is by weighing the contents of this and taking 2% of the amount of salt in grams, okay? So what you need to do that, you need a scale, okay? So we're gonna place the bowl on the scale and it's at 0 grams. Now we're going to add the contents of the cabbage, the fennel, and the ginger, and that comes to 712 grams, okay, of content. So you multiply that by 2%, which is about 14 grams or 15 grams of salt we're going to want to use for this recipe. Now I just roughly add a tablespoon, and that's probably 15 grams. So we're going to go to 728 here. 727, 1 more gram. That's how much salt we need. Okay, now the salt, you can't omit it. It's very important for the fermentation process. Like I said before, it allows the walls to break down in the cabbage, and this step is very important to open up the sugars, right? So that the natural fermentation of the bacteria starts to happen. Now we're just going to let this sit for about 20 minutes, and then what's going to happen is the salt is going to start extracting the liquid from the cabbage, and then we're going to transfer it to the mason jar. I'm going to cut up this cabbage to show you how to do the simple version. All right, same concept as the purple or the red cabbage. You want to slice it up very thinly. I'll tell you why I choose the purple cabbage, not only because of the color, go Lupus Warriors, but also because mostly the color purple or blue in vegetables signify antioxidants. And antioxidants are important to reduce oxidative stress in the body, right? To help as a foundation of supporting the immune system, right? Reducing infections and just helping the body regenerate. So that's why I like to go for purple for food when possible. Perfect. So we have the green cabbage, nice and thinly sliced as well. So now we're going to do that same process with adding the salt to start to extract the liquids. break down the cellular walls, and the same concept, about 2%. We've made this a few times, so we know it's about a tablespoon. Okay. We're gonna let this sit for about 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll be back. Now, while we're waiting on the cabbage to extract the liquid before we start to, is it called massacate? I think that's the word. But essentially what you're doing is extracting the liquids from the salt. Anyway, story time. So as I mentioned, I've been religiously eating sauerkraut for a good 6 months now. And I've gone from having terrible gut health and incredibly debilitating indigestion symptoms to having my life back. Not only did I gain that 45 pounds of healthy weight back, I started to gain more energy. I no longer suffer from chronic fatigue and chronic pain throughout my body. My skin starts to glow up. I have reduced my lupus symptoms. Remember, heal your gut, reverse your lupus. Yeah, just so many different changes have happened in my life where I have reclaimed my vitality with lupus by eating probiotic-rich foods. Now, as a precursor to getting the benefits of probiotics, you also need to incorporate prebiotic foods. And those foods come in the form of whole foods, fruits and vegetables, for example, to get essential fiber, right? So think of your asparagus or your beans or your grains or your broccolis. Those are foods that you're going to want to incorporate with the sauerkraut so that those prebiotics activate the probiotics. Hey, are you ready to make this super nutritiously dense, probiotic-rich, naturally fermented food? Well, I am. So we have let the cabbage, the purple red cabbage, sit for about 20 minutes. And if you look closely, you could see some shiny fluids there. That means the liquid has started to extract from the cellular walls of the cabbage. So what I'm doing is just placing the contents into a mason jar. This is a 32-ounce mason jar. And believe me, we're going to be able to fit all of this cabbage in this one jar. We're going to use the help of this pestle or mortar, whatever part of that utensil we're using here. Someone help me here. So what you're just going to do is break down the cabbage. Essentially, you want to start seeing liquids happen. This process does require some elbow grease, so keep that in mind. And like I said, you really want to press down the contents so that there isn't much air in the jar. That's going to allow the bacteria to really feed on the cabbage so that you're getting the byproduct, which is the lactic acid, right? The natural probiotics. And eventually you'll start to see some liquids come up from the cabbage. Be patient. It's going to happen. Keep adding to the mason jar and keep pressing down until you've gotten all of your contents in, right? Or as much contents as you can until you fill up this jar to the very top. This will take a good 10 minutes or so. There's some juice there. It's finally coming up. Just keep going. Stick with it. Y'all, we did it. We fit everything into this jar, and you can see that liquid. Actually, let me show you. See that liquid that has risen to the top? All from the extraction of the cabbage. These are natural liquids here, the cabbage juice. Look how pretty that is. All right, this is where the magic happens. So we have done the hardest part of the process. Now, we're going to use this spring. It's a fermentation spring. I'll put the link below. So we're just going to use that spring to press down the contents away so that the juices rise to the top and the contents in the cabbage come to the bottom, right? You don't want anything above the liquid because that can create an unfriendly bacteria environment. And then we have this lid, this ball lid. We're just gonna press it down, seal it up, and then we're going to let it sit and ferment from 7 to 10 days. That's the process. Couple important tips though, because I have made sauerkraut before. You can see the difference in the colors. This is when you know it starts to ferment. The colors start to bleed and then the purple starts to get brighter. Almost like a fuchsia purple, if that makes sense. So we want to activate this process sooner, and what I'm going to do, this is a tip, it's optional. If you have sauerkraut already, you're going to take some of those sauerkraut juices and add about at least a tablespoon to the jar, and this helps to activate the process faster. I do the same process as we did with the purple or red cabbage with the green cabbage to have a more traditional sauerkraut, okay? You do the same thing. You compact the cabbage into the jar and then you give it a nice press to extract the juices. Feel stronger. Yes, look at all the juices here. You see how the juices have come up? This is 100% cabbage juice. No water added. It's just a little bit of elbow grease here, a little bit of love and patience, and your sauerkraut, it's on its way. Look at that. Look at those juices float to the top. You could see it better with the green cabbage. But yeah, that was that full cabbage. All right, we'll do the same technique as we did with the purple cabbage. You could prime it again with a tablespoon of sauerkraut juice from a previous fermentation. If not, it just takes an extra day or two to ferment. No biggie. So we're just gonna press this down and put the lid on the top. If you don't have these items just yet, a little pro tip here, you could take the outside of the cabbage and press it down. You're gonna use that as a weight to press down the contents, and then compost this afterwards. Very important tip, you're gonna have to burp it every single day. That means you're just going to open the jar and let the gases emit from this, because it is going to start bubbling, and then you're going to see some gas rise and you're going to hear the sizzling of the gas. That means the fermentation is happening. You're going to want to give it a burp, and again, you're just going to open the jar and then give it a quick close. Do this once or twice a day, and then check it, smell it. It's going to tell you when it's ready. You're going to smell that sour smell. All right, here is day one. And as you could see, we have the liquid rising to the top, and those bubbles, those air bubbles are a good sign. So we're going to burp it. Let's see, you hear that ear? Yeah, that's what you want to do. Open the jar and then close it to release the gases. And then you'll start seeing the discoloration here where they become to look a little bit more faint, the color of the cabbage. That means that the sugars are being eaten. All right, these are done. You see how it's been, the color has changed all the way throughout. Probiotic rich sauerkraut, 2 ways, y'all. Make sure you save this recipe, try it out, and let me know what you think in the comments. I love this recipe. I am religious with eating my sauerkraut every single day. And I also forgot to mention one important thing. This is also packed with vitamin C, y'all. So gut healthy and immune regulating sauerkraut. We decided to make an avocado toast with the purple sauerkraut. This was absolutely delicious. Don't forget to subscribe.